often than not, we have clients reach out or potential teams reach out to talk to us about their frustrations and their pain points and their challenges in these areas. So specifically, resource forecasting, capacity planning. I don't know where my resources are. I don't know where my people are. I don't know how many people I'm going to need for 2022. I don't know who to hire, who to use contractors for, etc. Or maybe it's just frustration, which is whether it's coming up from the project manager and project team side, which is I'm having to update the same information in 3 different locations in 2 different tools, and people are still interrupting me day in and day out, asking me what the status of this or that is, and some people are getting left out of communications, right? Or maybe it's the leadership team saying, wow, we're constantly over budget, we're behind schedule, we're not delivering on the scope and quality that we're expecting to, we're not getting the return on investment. Like, there's got to be a better way. We've got to structure this better. It can be a matter of lack of accountability and ownership. So sometimes that comes up as a complaint from the project team, just being like, I, senior leadership is constantly changing their minds, their priorities are constantly changing. Like, I'm not even clear what I should be working on right now. In other times, it's just like one project has 7 owners, but then that means that really it doesn't have any ownership, and the roles and responsibilities aren't really defined that well. So you don't know who needs to do what in order to be successful. Oftentimes we're hearing about lack of communication and really interdependencies between projects not being clearly articulated, not being recognized, or really oftentimes it can come out of like a significant blow up firefight that they've had recently. So if there was a project or a product that was launched and it just caused huge disruptions to operations and it kind of backed up all the other projects and work going on, at some point people can just throw up their hands and say, you know what, we need help, we need to get an outsider in, to fix this problem. And that's where Echo likes to come in. So when we talk about a project management office, I like to first think through like a really high level workflow of what we're saying. So the first is how do projects come in? And I don't just mean projects. Sometimes it's ideas, it's recommendations, it's insights, it's not always a perfectly packaged project. Maybe it's much bigger than a project. It's a whole program. But how does potential work come in, get noted, like get identified, and hopefully be all in the same place so that you can compare it against each other, right? So one of the first questions I ask any of my clients is like, do you have a single list of projects, or do you have 5 lists? Because if you have 5 lists, it's a different problem than if you don't have any lists, than if you don't have one list. Okay. The next piece is this project execution. So once a project has been approved, it's been, leadership is saying like, yep, go forward with this. It moves into this project execution phase. Now there's a lot of different project phases in that project execution, but I like to just, bulk it all together. Let's put your product methodology aside, whether you're agile, more traditional and waterfall, whatever tool you have. Like, you track the project execution in some way, shape, or form. When the project goes live, then you're going to close the project out. So you're focusing on your projects that are in progress, right? So new potential projects, projects that are in progress, projects that are ramping down and getting archived. So it's really important that there's an approval and prioritization process. Not every idea that comes in is a good idea. So who reviews it, who approves it, how does it get prioritized against ongoing work and other potential new work as well. So I call this approval and prioritization phase, which should happen during project intake, not during project execution, right? There's this approval to go live. So this is what does a project plan, what does a project need to meet in order to be ready to be out in production, to be live in front of clients, to be out in your team, and to potentially, be moved into operations. So what is that approval criteria and who is involved in that conversation? Um, Once a project is approved, going back, I think a little bit about how am I standing up a new project, right? Maybe it's a project plan, maybe it's a planner board, maybe it's whatever tool you're using. Maybe you have a risk log or a raid log or a project log. Is there a budget sheet that needs to get filled out, or, a charter, or, I mean, where does the project live, and where do you see visibility on it? How, like, what does the project manager or lead get when a new project comes in? What does that look like? And then similarly, okay, so we have all this project documentation, maybe there's requirements documents, etc., tasks. Where does it go at the end? So that it's not clogging up alongside all the active projects, okay? So this piece in between, I talk about project delivery. This is where we dive into, if you're interested, we do have a intro to project management class. We'll talk a little bit about different project phases and methodologies and different structures, but there's some sort of project methodology associated here with how you deliver projects. There can be different types of projects in your organization, but it is important that you have some sort of methodology. Do you have stage gates? Do you have key milestones or something like that that need to be communicated up and out throughout the organization outside of just the immediate project team? Okay, and this is that project delivery component. And then if you look at like a really mature PMO, when you're thinking about it, you want to actually be looking at what is the return on investment? Like, what is the business case for every new idea or potential project that's coming in? And then even after the project is closed, because oftentimes ROI can be, 3 months, 6 months, a year out, how are we measuring this return on investment and making sure that we're actually getting what we are expecting from this project? So having success criteria, having some measurability. And again, this gray, I have it in kind of gray, I have it as bookends. This is something, I mean, with all project management, with any system implementation, right? Like progressive elaboration, we mature as we move. I don't always recommend a client start out with estimating ROI if they'd have no concept of that in their organization. Like, let's structure the project intake first and get all of our data in place and then continue to mature as an organization.